So the boat has been rocked when it comes to the idea of how we're going to actually be retiring. It's very difficult to think about in these times, right? Because the price has been so far down so quickly and actually for so long that it's kind of hard to think about the retirement phase. But it's a little exercise for everyone. If you can start to think about how you're going to retire and the realistic numbers that you're looking at, I think this really, really starts to help in terms of how far in the future you start to look at retiring or how early you could actually retire. And in previous videos, I remember I did a live stream a long time ago about what are we going to do when we retire? Like where is that money actually going? How can it go there? And in what form is it? Is it in crypto still? Is it in other areas? And I want to explore a couple of those other areas today. And please suggest any of the kind of ideas that you have of where you're going to park your money to earn that interest. Because, and I spoiled it a little bit there, but we want to be earning an interest every month on the assets that we own to create a passive income that meets all of the requirements of our lifestyle. Now, whether you like your lifestyle right now and you just want to meet your bills, just pay your bills so you don't have to trade your time for your money at a job, and maybe you want to do that for if you live with someone or you have dependents or anything. Everyone's got different goals and lifestyles. There's a guy in our members chat who is hilarious, Doge the Hope Crusher. His idea of retiring is, basically the Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle, I think. And he wants, Japanese Wagyu steaks 3 times because he's a big guy, needs them 3 times a day. Just craziness. So everyone's on the spectrum of, I just want to get by, and then Doge the Hope Crusher. If you're anywhere but in between there, which you probably are, then it's probably going to be a good video. The whole thing about these interest yielding accounts that you can have, basically crypto banks, that didn't go so well, did it? The way that they were made, I'm talking about like Celsius as the big name, Voyager, who've had issues with withdrawals. I'm not going to say any others for now, until they actually do have issues. But you know the ones. I talked about those a lot as being the place where you park your money to get that interest, because you can get, conservatively, you can just get like a 8% yield. That's a 0.66% yield every month. You just need an amount of money to where your lifestyle is paid within that 0.66% a month, right? But the way they were generating the yields was unsustainable. Of course, right? They're basically lending out crypto to get you a yield on the earnings that they make. It's really confusing. But if the price goes down too quickly on those accounts, the company's holdings in the coins that they're like lending out to you, they can't pay them back. So now they have to either stop withdrawals or shut down, or it's just scary stuff, right? Like in theory, that idea is great to park your money there. You can even get the yield on your pounds and dollars and euros, but it just feels a bit too sketchy now. This feels a bit sketchy. Let's erase that from the equation, shall we? Let's try and think of some yields that we can get outside of that kind of yield, that kind of lending business model. There's a couple I want to talk about. There's really only 2 that I want to talk about and make sense of, because we don't have all day, do we? And the first one is Freeway. I want you to do your own research on all of these ones. I've talked about Freeway in the past, but only briefly. But I've really started to kind of want to understand more, because I always felt Freeway was a little bit different, because their yields are, well, my thought process now after all this has happened with Celsius and stuff is that when you see high yields, it's a little bit scary. I don't really want to be getting into high yield things, because we've seen how that goes before. Unless, and this is a big unless, again, do your own research, unless they get their yield in a different way. They're not lending out, right? They're not doing what Celsius, Voyager, they're not doing what they were doing, unless. So I dug in a little bit more, and there's a video that I will try to link in this video description. Amazingly useful. I think it's by Passive Aggressive Income, and he had an interview. No, he does a deep dive on what Freeway is and how they get their interest yield. Also watched an AMA with the Freeway owner talk about how they get the yield and stuff, and it was just very good, because it's not like Voyager and Celsius. It's not the same, but the yields are high. Here's a little good thing though. Before I get into how they get the rewards, because you can actually choose the percentage of annual rewards, right? So obviously you want to get a high reward, but you want to know that it's being done sustainably. They also have a US side of things as well for all the US viewers here. So you can choose from these superchargers basically. So you hold your tokens, you upload your tokens, whatever that word is, I've forgotten. Deposit, my brain. You deposit your crypto or your USD, euros or GBP into Freeway, and you start getting an annual reward, right? If you supercharge your holdings, and supercharge means you put a certain percentage of your holdings into Freeway token. We've seen this before with the other tokens. You hold with the other projects, you hold their token and they give you a boosted reward. It's the same thing. The interesting thing here is that they do a gold supercharger. Gold, like real gold. So if you like the idea of like, I guess it's not staking. Placing your money somewhere, they take it off the blockchain, they put it on their own cold storage into a safe. So they've taken your assets off and into a safe. So they get their own loan against your collateral. But if they can't fulfill the loan, they can't pay back the loan, your capital's still safe. They simply take the ledger, plug it back in, and send it back to you. So your capital is not at risk on Freeway, which is really interesting. Really, really interesting. So they generate their yield. I'll tell you how they do that. But then with that yield that they get, they give you the opportunity to either accumulate Bitcoin, Ethereum, DOT, Cardano, Binance Coin, or gold, real gold. Really, really interesting. So if you like the idea of earning your interest off crypto and into a metal, then you can actually get it in gold. But the boost that you get from having the supercharger, from having that money in the Freeway token, is quite significant. And I think that would actually bring down the time it would take for you to retire significantly, right? Especially if we were looking at 8%, and let's say you had done the calculations and you thought, okay, I need $750,000 at an 8% interest yield to retire and get $5,000 a month, because now all of a sudden you need $150,000 to get that same amount, like to get that $5,000 a month. That's all you need now. $150,000 instead of $750,000, because you're getting that reward. Let's talk about how they get it. This is just another page here. You can see the exchange rates, the USD supercharger, Bitcoin supercharger. Yeah, I told you about all of that. But here's how they get the reward, right? So what they do is they have their own technique on Forex trading. This could all sound a little bit sketchy, and if it does, then stay away. It's all about who you trust and the kind of the process of these things. I just thought it was interesting because it's different than Celsius and Voyager. But they have their own kind of like scalping method that's been very successful and takes advantage of very small movements in the most volatile Forex pairs. So that, let's say that's USD and GBP. Volatile in that area, obviously nothing like crypto. So these are like 1% swings at most, but they're taking advantage of those swings, and they found an algorithm, basically a bot, that has continually offered this yield that is actually more than 43%. And lots of people who've used it say that the yield is actually more than 43% and they're being conservative. If I'm thinking about things that always sound too good to be true and now ruling those out, this actually would apply. It does sound a bit too good to be true, but it does sound too good to be true if they're doing it in the ways that have already failed. That's kind of my mentality here. And whether that's me taking too much of a risk, that's fair enough. But if you look at it in terms of needing $750,000 to retire, and now I only need $150,000, that is worth exploring. That difference is worth exploring, and I suggest you explore that too. Explore how they get their yield. I've put the videos below. Really interesting. Really take some time and listen to them. If they are running a sustainable profit-making bot on an area that will continue to be there, the Forex trading world, that will continue to be there, then maybe it's something to look at. And if not, to park all of your money there, park some and supercharge that, and it looks like you don't even need much to put in here to yield the amounts you would yield in other places with higher risk. So just thought that was interesting. If you are interested in like registering and just looking at it, I do have a link for Freeway. You can register using my link. I think there's a kickback. I'm not sure. You don't have to use that link either. But there's also a US side of things as well. It's like Freeway US. But there's links to that all over when you click my link if you want to. So Freeway, super interesting. The second thing we're going to talk about is property, real life property, not metaverse property. Maybe that's for another video, but we're going to talk about real property here. I can only talk from the UK perspective because I have never bought property in the US. In the UK, you need a 25% deposit to be able to buy a property. So theoretically, if you have a property that's £100,000, you'd usually find those up north. Those are like the entry level property investing properties. You just have to pay £25,000 in order to purchase that property and get the loan for and get the mortgage for 75%. That is a buy-to-let mortgage. The yields on property are significantly lower unless you get lucky, basically, or you've done major research. But if you want to do this very passively and easily, then you're probably looking at close to around a 5% yield on your money, which is lower than and significantly lower than freeway, but it's the housing market. Always comes back, right? It's continually growing, always comes back. Yes, there are crashes, but it always comes back. Sounds a bit like Bitcoin. So I think a reasonable amount for people in this community to have after, let's say, a massive bull run or super cycle, whatever, I would say that's about 300,000. Whether that means, we have alt season, take profits, buying at the bottom, new bull run. I know how the money can accumulate in those times like crazy. So let's say you've got £300,000. And you say dollars, it doesn't matter. I'm going to say pounds because it's easier. So you've got £300,000. A 25% deposit is £75,000. You can buy 4 £300,000 houses with that deposit, right? Because 25%, for 25%, you can buy 4 properties worth £300,000 with the £300,000 that you've got. And what you've done there, instead of buying a property for £300,000 in cash with the £300,000 you just bought, you've actually multiplied your cash flow. Instead of dumping all your money into a property to have no mortgage, you've now got 4 mortgages, but you've got the cash flow to pay your lifestyle. This is really interesting. And so I've done some rough calculations on here. For a single house, for a single property, remember this is £75,000 down. So for a £300,000 property, we have something called stamp duty here, 14,000 on that. The legal fees about 1,500. The survey fees, let's say it's 400. No decorating and furnishing fees. Obviously, you have a total cost which is higher. Maybe you need to just have like 300, more than 300 to be buying these houses. But I'm just giving you the idea here. A monthly rent for that down here, especially where I live, £300,000 property will create £1,300 a month rent. Let's just say it's not been unoccupied for any amount of time. That'll generate £15,600 a year, right? This is a 5% yield. So you get a 5% yield on your money when you buy a property like that. But the thing is, we're buying 4 of these. We're buying 4 properties like this. So where our annual income is now 4 times this number, which I think is about 60 something. So with that 60 something, we now divide that by 12 and you end up with £5,000 a month. £5,000 a month. If you live in the UK, in the UK that's like in the US that's like $6,500, $6,250 a month from your $300,000 investment. So yes, it's a 5% yield, but it's in the housing market. And yes, you can give up 10% for it to be managed, so you don't have to be a landlord or handle any of that day-to-day stuff. And yes, you have to pay probably another 10% to kind of top up an account for vacancy. If there's no one staying there that month, you need to obviously pay the mortgage that you've got on it. But even more than that, the mortgage you're paying is interest only. You're not paying the capital away. You're paying the interest only. So the rates are significantly lower. And after all of that, let's say you're supposed to be getting $5,000 a month, but because of all the percentage drops and stuff, let's say you're getting now 3.5 a month. Well, how much does it take to live your current lifestyle? I mean, tell me now. Think about it right now. How much does your life cost every month right now? Would that do it? Would that cover all of the things that you need to pay for? Would that give you the holiday every year that you want to go on, the vacation? Kind of gives you an idea for how much money you need to actually make this a reality. Obviously, it's a lot more achievable if you're not trying to have 3 Japanese Wagyu steaks every night. Like for me, I know what my lifestyle costs. I don't want too much more than what I've got. I'm pretty happy with what I've got. Retiring would be pretty quick for me. It'd be quick. There's not much. I could go into property and freeway and just like spread out and not have to worry anymore. And I just thought this was really interesting because the lower yielding things, if you put the reality on it, the real numbers on that 5% starts to become achievable, right? And yes, there's obviously taxes when you take your money out. Maybe if you don't have 300, you probably need 400 to spend the 300. Who knows? Who knows how it goes? Maybe when the next bull run happens, you'll be able to be buying property with your Bitcoin or whatever, which is a possibility, I mean, they already did it this cycle. for a property. I forgot where it was in Europe, but that's all on the cards. But don't count anything out. But just understand that there are other ways, other places to put your money. I don't have any referral link for property, but obviously I do have a link for Freeway, which is in the description. If you like this type of video, the long form videos where you can just sit down and we can just talk about what's happening, then let me know. Let me know in the comments. I will be replying to comments. I'll reply to comments from members only. I can filter that on the YouTube analytics. I'll filter by members only. I'll reply to all the members if you leave comments here. But of course, you've got the Discord to ask me questions as well. So this is 2 of many places that you can put your money. I would love to hear your suggestions for the other places. And if you like this content, please hit subscribe. We're almost at 5555 subscribers. So if you are the one who made it all 5s, comment below as well, and I will reply to that comment. Let me know what you think about Freeway. Do your research. I mean, I know property has all the headaches of like management and stuff, but you can get that outsourced. You can give the letting company that. You just have to sacrifice some profit, which I'm okay with. 10%, take it. Manage my properties. I don't want to think about it. Like, I'm happy for 10%. For that to be 10%. Anyway, at the very least, think about how much money you need on different yields, and then start to look into the options of how you can generate those yields. Being wary of unreasonable yields without knowing if it's a sustainable way of actually generating that yield. That we don't want to make that mistake again. And then also consider the traditional ways. You could put it into the stock market if you have enough money and live off the dividends. It takes a lot more money to do that, but you know, these are all things you can think about. Even the traditional side. It doesn't have to all be about blockchain and crypto. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.